All right, Algebra 2, last part of this unit, Unit 5, talk about the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula, if you know nothing else, if you're not comfortable with graphing, if you're struggling with factoring, if you don't like completing the square, this is the be-all, end-all, save your rear end way to solve for a quadratic. So if I take a look at this one, can we solve by factoring? I'm looking at this function right here. Sorry, let me back up. Can we solve that by factoring? Not without it getting really hairy. Can we solve by graphing? Yes, but only if we know exactly what we're doing. If we don't remember what we're doing, then we're going to be in trouble. So not really. So what we do is we use the quadratic formula. So we've got negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where that a, b, and c is what is exactly comes out in the problem. So ax squared plus bx plus c. So the b squared minus 4ac, that part, that's called the discriminant. All right, and the discriminant tells you exactly how many answers you should have, okay? So if it's positive, bigger than 0, there's 2 real solutions. All right? One of them might be the square root of something, but, you know, whatever. So if it's b squared minus 4ac equals 0, there's 1 solution. And if it's smaller than 0, what ends up happening is you're taking the square root of a negative, and what that means is that there are 0 real solutions. That means you're going to have imaginary solutions. So you're going to have I as part of your answer. So did you forget the formula already? Maybe we should have a... So the quadratic formula can be used to solve any quadratic in this form. So if you can factor, do it. But if you can't, then use the quadratic formula. So let's take a look at the song. I'm a little scared. All right, I can't take that anymore. I apologize for subjecting you to that. No, stop it. Stop. I'm sorry about that. What I'll do is I'll put a much more interesting video about the quadratic formula. Yes, they do exist up on the Schoology page. So using quadratic formula, x squared minus 12x equals 28. First thing I got to do, bring everything over to one side. So a is 1, b is negative 12, c is negative 28. What I think is a good idea is to put that together and get figure out what a, b, and c are right away. So it's going to be negative b, so that's negative 12, plus or minus square root of negative 12 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 28 all over 2 times 1. So that's going to be 12 plus or minus 144 minus 4 times 28. Which is going to be 112 all over 2. So that's going to be 144 minus 112. It's 32, so it's going to be 12 plus or minus square root of 32 over 2. Square root of 32 is really 16 and 2. So that's going to be 4 square root of 2 over 2. And I can divide all these by 2. So I get 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 2. There's my answer. All right, so here's where we are. 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 2 is going to be your solution to that. Now, next one. If there's something in front of x squared, that's fine. Don't panic. That becomes your a. So a is 2, b is 4, c is going to be negative 5. Please notice I keep bringing the sign with that. So it's going to be negative 4 plus or minus square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 5 all over 2 times 2. So that'll be negative 4 plus or minus 16 minus 4 times 2 times negative 5. That is going to be negative 40. So minus negative 40. So if you're saying that's going to go together, you're right. Plus or minus square root of 56 all over 4. Now, square root of 56, it's not perfect, but you can simplify it. So like 56 can be divided by 4. 56 can be not divided by 16. But so 56 can be split into square root of 4, square root of 14. So it can be 2 square root of 14. So that's going to be 2 square root of 14 all over 4. These can all be divided by 2. So you're going to get negative 2 plus or minus square root of 14 all over 2. There's your answer. There's your answer. You can't split apart square root of 14. Do not factor out a 2, which is a popular thing to do to screw up. That's as far as I go. So 3, 5, 4, here we go. A is 3, B is 5, C is 4. So it's going to be negative 5 plus or minus square root 5 squared minus 4 times 3 times 4 all over 2 times 3. Negative 5 plus or minus 25 minus 4 times 3 is 12 times 4 is 48 all over 6. Negative 5 plus or minus, that's going to be negative 23 all over 6. So negative 23, that's going to be, factor out I. So I'm going to say negative 5 plus or minus I square root of 23 over 6. That is my simplified answer. I got to pull out that I. I can't leave it underneath. That is how you would simplify that. So path of a football thrown across the field is given by negative 0.005x squared plus 5 plus x plus 5. How far has the ball traveled horizontally when it hits the ground? Basically, they're saying if this is the path of the football, how far is this? Wow, if only we could represent that and figure out zeros. Oh, wait, we can. It's called the quadratic formula. So A is negative 0.005, B is 1, C is 5. So it's going to be negative 1 plus or minus square root of 1 squared minus 4 times negative 0.005 times 5 all over 2 times negative 0.005. So let the calculator do a lot of legwork here. So 4 times work inside out. So 1 minus that. So this becomes, right over here, negative 1 plus or minus square root of 1.1 all over negative 0.01. So if I did that, let's take square roots, 1.1, ooh, 1, negative 1 plus that, divided by, so one of my answers when I go negative 1 plus this divided by this is negative 4.88. So that means that, oh yeah, because he's not going to let it go up here. So the ball comes down here. This is where he releases from an arm. If I came back here, that's where it would land. So that's going to be the distance. So then if I go negative 1 minus the square root of 1.1 divided by that, whoa, so I get about 200 feet when I subtract those. Sorry, 208.88 feet. That is how far that it went. All right, but all I did was put it in and let the calculator do the work for me. All right, an object shot straight up in the air, go 800 feet per second. The height it reaches after t seconds is given by the equation of this. When will the object reach a height of 10,000 feet? So when will this equal 10,000? Well, I don't want to crank that out because that seems like a lot of work. So let's put in the quadratic formula first. So it'll be negative 800 plus or minus square roots of 800 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 10,000 all over 2 times negative 16. So now the first thing I'm going to do when I see big numbers like this, I'm going to check and see, because if that's a negative underneath there, there's no solution. So that's what I'm going to check. So 800 squared is going to be 640,000. So I take 4 times 16 times 10,000. I get exactly that. Hey, look, so that's going to be 0. So I'm going to get negative 800 plus or minus square root of 0 all over negative 32. So I'm going to have one solution. It's going to be negative 800 divided by negative 32. So my answer is going to be 25. So that means 25 seconds, I'm going to hit a height of 10,000 feet. On a graph, kind of what that means is this, is that shot straight up in the air, when does it hit 10,000? That means it's going to hit 10,000 right there, and that's going to be 25 seconds in. It also represents the axis of symmetry. Okay, that's all I got. This is the last section in the unit, so be prepared for an assessment coming soon your way. Thank you.